No one's ever thinking about you the way you think they are, ever. No one is thinking about you the way I'm not thinking about anybody else at any other time. I'm thinking about myself all the time, and I have a feeling that most people are the same way, and even when they're thinking about somebody else and obsessing over how someone treated them, they're really thinking about themselves. My business is your business. It's all within my lady business with me, Mary Nisi. Welcome to All Up in My Lady Biz today. I have the ever effusive, is that a word I can use to describe you? Incredible blonde. There's so many ways to describe Melissa Riddle, but she is my number two here at Toast and Jam. Technically, I think her title is operations
Head of
manager,
operations, I think
head of
is what, yeah,
operations, vice president of technology and making forms. And she came into my life 2 years, almost 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago,
2.5.
2023.
Yep.
Yep, 2023. And has basically revolutionized my entire business. Without further ado, Melissa Riddle, welcome to
Hi,
All Up in
guys.
My Lady Business.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. So, let's start off. How'd you wind up here? How did you get here?
I was one of the kids of the, what are they calling it these days? Zennial, right? Like
Sure.
I was born between 78 and 82 when everyone had to go to college just after high school because that's what you were supposed to
You
do.
did.
And I did that and it was dumb. And
It's
I
not that
decided as
dumb.
soon as
You met the love of your
I mean, I
life
got a
there.
degree in psychology. Yeah, and I met my husband. But then decided to move to Chicago and had my sights set on fashion design for some reason. And immediately had 3 jobs when I moved here in all different weird fields. And I was thinking about this last night. I was kind of like, how did I get here? And realized that the sort of most pivotal professional changes in my life came from people pulling me away from situations I thought were good.
Interesting.
So, I worked for Jason Home and it was just Jason Home and Garden back when I worked there. And it was really delightful. It was like in interiors, which was a field that I liked. I was good at it. I got along really well with the owner. And then I got an offer from another company to go away, pulled away from that situation. And it was a little more money and it was kind of back in another field of interest. And so I was like, okay, I'll go do that. And then a year later, they let me go. And I was really regretful about it and how much detail to go into. But, basically they hired me to kind of keep an eye on things while they were off doing this other huge project for American Apparel. And then once they got done with that huge project with American Apparel, they're like, okay, we want our store back. And like, I was just kind of on the curb.
Sucks.
Yeah. So it was really like, okay, I had this great job and I got, like it had a lot of potential. I often imagine what life would have been like if I'd stayed there, as one does. But then that didn't happen. And so then I was kind of like on the wind, ended up getting my longest other job besides this one and the one I had before in my own company was with Design Within Reach. And that's where I got my interior design love. And I worked
Mhm.
there for 7 years. I ran their downtown location and got a lot of managerial experience and stuff in my late 20s and early 30s and just got kind of tired of the corporate churn. I was going to like lose. I had 300 untaken vacation hours when I left Design Within Reach. Does that sound like me at all? You've never heard anything like
No, I have no idea what you're talking
that?
about.
No idea what I'm talking about. And so from there, I landed the job of, well, I actually took a job selling eyeglasses because I've always really liked eyewear. And I was like, I'm just going to park myself here at this place until I discover what's next. And that turned out to be Right Auction. And then that was really where like the confluence of my obsession with 20th century art and design and my interiors degree that I earned while I was at Design Within Reach kind of took hold. And I was there for 5 or so years. And once again, somebody came along that kind of had this like little package of a dream. I was a mom by then. And they were like, I'll help you start your own interior design business. You're too talented to be hanging out here, kind of all of the dreamy things of like, being discovered and the challenges of being an entrepreneur, kind of mentorship and financing and all of these things were kind of like, hey, you should go do this. But
So this person was just paying was, like, gave you money to, like, start your business?
it was
Like
a
an angel
loan.
investor? Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
God, okay.
It was like, but I didn't have to like go to a bank or do anything.
Mhm.
And they had started their own business and also, had given me a lot of, just buttered me up, right? Made me feel like, oh, maybe I could do this crazy thing that sounds totally wild and impossible. And my daughter was going into kindergarten at the time. So there was this real attraction to the flexibility of being master of my own domain and whatever. So anyway, I did it. Needless to say, it didn't, necessarily go so well. Some very early experiences kind of taught me that this wasn't the best partnership and ultimately ended up, sort of having to pay all that money back really quickly. It was kind of funny because my background in 20th century art and design very much helped me escape that situation because I would go to this store here, a store in Riverside called Divine Consign,
Mhm.
and I found a very expensive sofa there
Mhm.
that then I ended up putting up at auction, which sold well and then helped me get out of that
Oh, nice. But
loan.
so you
Yeah, it
you
was kind
got
of
a
funny.
like, so you bought a couch that, like, they were undervaluing, and
Uh-huh.
then you sold it to Right, and then you with the proceeds of that, you're able to pay off that lady?
Yeah, it wasn't at Right, it was at Toomey, which now is a part of the Right Rago
Universe,
sphere. Yes.
the Right cinematic universe?
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, I did end up selling the nonstop sofa, navy. Oh, it was beautiful. 14 sections, I think. Anyway, ended up selling that for a decent profit. And then that, along with like a few other things, some Jeff Messerschmitt acrylic chairs, a few other things that I found at Divine Consign, I was able to
That's so
net some
cool.
decent profit from it. So it was all kind of net even, right? Like I
Mhm.
was able to do these things and kind of just get out of that situation. And then so here I am fully on my own now, not really with any kind of nest egg or backup or mentorship. And then COVID happened.
Mhm.
And that was really challenging. So I did a lot of virtual consults and design sort of seminars for libraries, like people wanting to improve their homes during
Mhm.
COVID. And I would get online and do my little slideshow about, how to be like a home designer and make a little, side cash and lots of exterior paint consults. That was a big one for a long time. We're going to paint our house and it was safe to be outdoors. So doing a lot of that, really fine tuning my Photoshop skills, which is, something we now
I
enjoy when we're doing
mean,
marketing.
your Photoshop
Who
skills
who knew?
are amazing. Like, I didn't know how much I needed them in my life until I had them.
Having a little tiny graphic design ability goes a long way. So anyway, then here I was, like, kind of realizing like I didn't have enough volume to scale my business, and that it would take a lot of investment and other things in order to make it a real firm. But then I was sitting on all of this experience that's really hard to get. Like interior designing experience is like you can read books and blogs and all the different things, but until you're actually in somebody's home and measuring and making selections and seeing the whole big picture come together, you just have to be able to do that. And so I was like, what do I just pivot completely? I was pretty sure I wanted to get out of the business. And then I had an opportunity to go work for one of my favorite design companies ever. I had never actually worked for a firm and got there, and it was not at all like I had hoped or dreamed. And so that ended pretty quickly. And so here I was sitting like, I tried all of these different permutations of the thing that I thought that I wanted. And I'm looking at like what trying to do the thing that I'm passionate about led to career wise was not really what I had ever hoped for. I tried doing it myself. I tried doing it for someone I really admired and still didn't have a good thing going for myself, basically. I tried a few other little interiors things, and then I found out about the position at Toast and Jam. And I had sort of been thinking, I briefly worked for uh, a former client of mine who had a med spa to see if like trying on the number two, outfit and how that would work. Because my constant refrain while I was trying to save my interiors company was if I just had somebody like me, it would have been okay. Like I could have survived probably.
Hey, that's me. I'm the
Right?
person that's like you.
um, and so I tried on the, like I was joking. I went from spaces to faces, and I got to sit in
I
a space that I had designed, and like people would come in to get their like, tweaks and whatnot. And they'd be like, God, this space is so amazing. And I'd be like, oh, thanks. And then be like, why are you,
it's me.
why are you taking credit for that? And yeah, because it was me. But yeah, something about that, just didn't work. It didn't really take advantage of the depth of project management that I had cultivated in those years of being an interiors person. When I worked at Wright, I was overseeing like all of the restoration projects, choosing new fabric and making sure it got ready in time for it to get photographed and end up in the catalog and then be subsequently sold. So I had all this time project management stuff going on as well. So I was like, this isn't really getting utilized here and whatever. So
And you wanted to utilize those skills like that. It's like it's
I
one of these
definitely
things where
did.
so I think what's interesting about your path to get here, and it's very reminiscent of mine, where you do
Yeah.
you go to school for one thing, in your case, psychology and mine art history. I mean, I think you probably are continuing to use your degree in psychology because, you learn stuff that you can kind of use to like, diagnose people, or
Right.
whatever you do with the psychology degree. But when you kind of, when you are a little bit you're not like everybody else. Like you can't do the normal 9 to 5 or whatever. You kind of like when you kind of realize that, like that's like a and you kind of have to go through a bunch of different things and try things on. I think some people might look at that as like, I can't figure out what I am. And you don't realize like you keep thinking about what I wish you were doing instead of just being here now and like doing the thing and getting the experience and just not really thinking about where it's going to go. But when you are just getting the experience doing the thing, that it pulls together all these disparate things. And like, when you're in a retail environment, you're not really using project management. When you're in your project management, you're not really able to like, be around other people or the things that, you want to kind of pull together. And so, like a job at a DJ company probably wouldn't be the thing that you thought you would be doing because, and I
But when
think
I
part of
got
it, sorry,
just so when I got the description of what the job was, I was like, there's no way I'm qualified for this. Like I immediately
really?
was like, oh, for sure. I was like, I have no business. Kajabi, what's that?
Yeah.
I was really kind of looking more at the types of DJP, what's that? Not
Yeah.
really thinking to myself like I'm capable of learning any
A
system.
CRM. Yeah.
Yeah. And just embracing that. But thankfully it didn't hold me back because I
True.
still threw my hat in the ring and here we are.
Yeah, and it's and I will say that, I feel like especially at the age like, when you get into your 40s and you've got all this experience and, your priorities have shifted, being open to these things, I think also it's like, the whole like Mother Teresa didn't start painting until she was 80 or whatever. It's like, you know, uh and not that working for
Prolific
me is
artist.
just like the same thing as being Mother Teresa, not Mother Teresa, Grandma Moses. That's what I meant. Grandma Moses, not Mother Teresa.
She went to school for art history, you guys.
Grandma Moses. It's Grandma Moses didn't start painting till I don't think Mother Teresa did. Maybe she did.
That's the
Uh,
joke.
anyway, my point to all this is that, it's part of what I think is interesting about your ability to come over here is like you were doing interior design. You did it by yourself. You tried to work for another person that did interior design and you couldn't do it because you'd worked for yourself and in that position, like in that world, and that probably had something to do with why it didn't work. But I think coming over to me, it's like I could never work for somebody else ever again, I don't think. I mean, I guess it depends. Actually, I do fantasize about being a barista, just because it's an easy job that I wouldn't have to think
You
about
could work for
when
someone
I
else
leave
if
it.
you didn't have to work for them. Like it was like an
Yeah.
optional thing.
Yeah, if I had
Like, hey,
fuck you
I'm doing
money on
this
the
for
side.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if I've got
exactly.
fuck you money and I can just go do whatever I want. If I had fuck you money, I wouldn't be working at,
Yeah.
Starbucks. My point is that I think it's great that you're able to come in and actually, like, work underneath me and, I mean, really parallel with me, how we've really gotten to that point where
Yeah. I
I
think it's
do
because
feel
our
more
skills are so complementary.
mhm,
Like the things that we just like fit in that way where when I did work for somebody else in my like same field, it was sameness, like I think it was a creative thing. And so there was this misalignment with what the outcome should look like. And I think coming to you, it was very much like a joke because my marriage is this way too, ideas and execution, except when I'm home, I'm ideas and my husband's execution at work. your ideas and I'm execution. So I don't have to be, I don't
Well,
have
and
to,
that's
I
always
could split it
been
up.
yeah, and I think that I mean, and I think the other thing too is that, I own a DJ company and all the DJ side of things, I understand that inside and out. I have a lot of ego around it. I have, because I know what I'm doing. I am incredibly good at it. And I know what I want on that side. But on the like
Yeah.
operation side of things, like, keeping the trains running on time, like I had my way of doing it because it was the way that I cobbled together with, the combination of my, like lack of any like I didn't know computers coming into like this job. I didn't know how software worked. I didn't know the running of the business. It was really cobbled together. And the other thing to consider, which I think I've talked about before, is that like there's no rule book. There's no like business owners for like DJ company for dummies that I had that told me what to do. And so I had to largely make it up. And I'm sure it's the same thing with interior design. There are more examples of those out there, but at the end of the day though, there's not like, like
There's
this
still a
is a
lot of
standard.
gatekeeping.
Yeah, and that is the problem is the gatekeeping. And I hate gatekeeping. I will tell anybody anything. I don't care. Like I don't want to necessarily talk about how much money I make, but I'll tell you. It's not like, I'm not going to do it now. We're not going to talk
Right.
about that. Even though you know exactly how much money I make and you
Sure
know
do.
exactly and she's still here, folks. So I don't know if I know what that means. Once you came in, what's interesting is that you came in 23. So that in 23 was, like we're, I guess, post-pandemic at that point, or at least we're the emergency's over of COVID is over. And so I was in a position where I could stop being in triage mode because and again, I'm not sure how much I've talked about this, but whatever, I can repeat myself on my podcast. I hear other
Sure
podcasters
can.
repeating themselves all the time. Is I lost my primary employee, the person who'd been running Toast and Jam at the beginning of the pandemic because they had a baby and couldn't, you know, be here. They didn't cut childcare. So I lost her and I was doing it all by myself and it was so horrible. And so I wound up bringing in someone who was, that wound up, you know, how do I talk about this?
You
I
had a
brought
really
in
good fire
mhm. There we go.
person.
Thanks. So, when I brought Melissa in, I didn't have to be in fire in like triage mode. And I was ready to, kind of completely stop acting like my business was on fire, which it was very much flaming for years. But the other thing that happened in this whole time of my life was that prior to COVID in 2019, I had done the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. And when I did that, it's kind of like a mini MBA to a certain extent. And I learned all these different ways to do things like how to manage employees, how to hire, how to fire, how to like understanding margins and things like that. And so many of the things that I learned in that I didn't think could apply to me because my business was so different that and I had at the time my DJs were doing all the sales, which I knew that there were things I was missing out on. I'm sure there were like weddings that were not booking because that DJ didn't know how to talk to that person. Or I think, I think I had wanted to take the sales away from the DJs, not because I didn't think they were capable of it, but because I knew that I wanted to get a more cohesive s-
Yeah, we didn't have a
message.
very consistent message. Like everybody, as unique as a DJ can be, the sales approach was because it was really just about that person and that couple in that moment of time without a really cohesive message about Toast and Jam, the brand, what you could expect.
Yeah, and by that measure, then our clients were getting a consistent product because it was us and everybody was trained by me. But then once people stopped being necessarily trained by me and being trained by other people within the company that were still trained by me. So then the message was going well, the training was going well, everybody was getting a relatively stable product. But when I stopped being the main trainer, that was when people weren't being trained the way that I needed them to be in order to operate well. But at the time, I was in COVID. It was such a bad, chaotic time, and I was really down on myself because I was like, "How is this business gonna keep going?" Because like, I don't have the bandwidth anymore to be able to give to it, and that is one of the shitty things about being a person who becomes a mother after they've had so much success in the job because you think you're gonna have the baby, and then the baby is just gonna be sitting there while you continue to do the exact same thing you were doing, and you just can't. Like you
Yeah.
can't and I was having I had a really hard time with that because I think as a feminist, I wanted to think that I could like work as I can, I'm gonna come back to work. No, I'm not gonna be a stay-at-home mom. I'm gonna go to, I had weird judgment around all of it. And so
Yeah.
basically once everything was kind of burned down with COVID, I was able to be like, "Wait a minute, I can actually change these things." And when you came in and you were such a good implementer, like things I had been trying to do for years, you just did. And then they were just off my list. And it was like, and I had a lot of guilt and judgment around that because I'm like, I've got great ideas. I have really good ideas and and they're not like pie in the sky. It's like stuff I could actually do, but like, and I would be like, why can't I get these things to happen? Like, I'm bad at this if I can't have the idea and then also implement it. And
Yeah.
between you and
It's not
Lorraine,
a right.
it really
Yeah.
changed my thinking on that. And
Yeah.
I also trusted you. Like there was something about you that made me really feel like you had my back and that you were doing this from a place of it, and it's where that owner's mindset comes in, which I think you get because you were an owner. You know actually what it takes to like get these things going. And it's sometimes it's hard to get employees. I mean, you want everybody to like, all the oars rowing in the same direction. Uh, and and I have a severe codependency where I want everyone to like me, which is it is toxic. Toxic to want everyone to like you.
I think you're too
Um,
hard on yourself, like, when it comes to that, like, it's just part of who you are, you don't have to judge it. I've tried to, on the opposite side of that, stop, sort of being mad at myself for not being more likable. But it's just, like, some things require you to like people and still be able to do your job, and some things don't require you to like the person that's telling you the things that you need to do your job. Like, it's not so much of what I do as an implementer is it's no way personal. So I really try to like keep as much as I can that out of the the mixture, because in order for certain things to happen, you have to just make them not personal. Like they're just
mhm,
like, this is a policy that's being changed. It's not something that has to be explained. This is the next phase, and it might not be exciting to everyone. Not everyone might not like it, whether they like it or not. It's going to happen, and you can be mad at me for it if you want, but this is what's necessary for the health of the company. And, I think that most of the ideas that we have implemented, there's maybe early pain points and things that you just have to like get through in order to adapt to the new situation. But I think what I've seen through a lot of the stuff that we've done in the last 2 years is change is hard, but
mhm.
once you get used to what the change is, you start to realize this is so much better. And so
Well,
it's
and
like if you could just go ahead and forward this is probably going to be better. It's going to be annoying to me for a minute, but I'm going to trust the process. Then like everyone could be a lot
yeah,
happier
and it's
in
hard for me
life.
to trust well, and I'm a like, I want like, when I have an idea, and I think this is like a normal, like, sort of ADHD, whatever buzzword thing, but it's like, I want my Oompa Loompa now. Like, the second that I have an idea, I want it fully formed and done and happening, and if it's not doing
That's
that,
how
then
I
what
am
have
at
I f
home, Mary.
yeah? You
Yeah.
want your
Oh,
di like, your dishes
I
washed
want I
now,
want the
or
banquette upholstered now.
oh. Oh,
Like it's
yeah.
usually has something to do with like some idea of painting, like the number of times I've just
But here's the
decided
thing,
in the
though, is that
morning I'm going to paint my living room. That happens a lot.
and that's where your implementation is amazing, and you're also your, like, perfectionism, but not I mean,
Yeah,
you are really good at getting it to look exactly the way you want it to look,
that's true.
uh, and that is, but for me, it's like I have a hard time seeing the end when I'm in the middle of it.
Hmm.
And, like, I can see the end at the beginning, and then I can see the end at the end. But when I'm in the middle of it, I feel like, "This is horrible. This feels terrible. Oh, is this even the right thing? Maybe we should just stop doing this and just go back to how it was." And that really paid off because in the last 2 years, like, I mean, we are dialed in a way that I didn't think was possible. And,
It's kind of
and I
wild.
it really is, and I do think to go back to what you were saying about, like, not taking it personally, which is really hard for me because it's my business, so why wouldn't I take it personally? It's like the 4 agreements of it all, like, to keep going
Hmm.
to go back to that well that I can never remember the 3rd one. And I don't know if I've talked about the 4 agreements on the pod, but the 4 I don't think I have because I've only recorded 2 pods so far this year. But the Four Agreements was a thing that was
I'm
really I mean,
looking
I've
it
read
up.
it before, but then when I was, at my yoga retreat in January, it was like the theme of it, and it really kind of hooked into my heart, and The Four Agreements is a Tolmec fable, and it is to always be perfect with your word. It is don't take things personally, don't make assumptions, and always try your best.
You
And
did
I
it.
know, I remembered them. I remembered them. And taking it like, and the thing is that like me not taking it personally, but I'm also expecting the other person not to take it personally because, no one's ever thinking about you the way you think they are, ever. No one is thinking about you the way I'm not thinking about anybody else at any other time. I'm thinking about myself all the fucking time. And I have a feeling that most people are the same way. And even when they're thinking about somebody else and obsessing over how someone treated them, they're really thinking about themselves because they're thinking about what that person thinks about them. I mean, it is really weird how humans are programmed to, really the negative bias is terrible. But even like, talking about like like you saying like, it is, I think that is the reason why we work is because you are able to deliver like a lot of the change that has to happen. No one likes change. And so whenever I'd be like, "Hey guys, we're gonna change this," and they're like, "I don't know if I like that." I'm like, "Okay, then we're not gonna do it." like, I just kind of, or because I get one bad comment, it kind of like makes me feel like, well, if one person hates it, everybody probably hates it. And even though my idea was good, we're not gonna do it because I don't want to have to disappoint anyone. But the thing is that like I get disappointed all the time. No one cares if
Yeah.
they're pissing me off.
You also had to have a person, Mary, that like, had a buy-in on whatever that idea was to be able to pull it through to its full potential. And I think,
What's an
when
example of
you're
that?
um, well, I guess bringing sales, in-house or having those like initial DJ like conversations with couples was a huge mountain, to
Mhm.
move. And there were a lot of, like we had to create all new processes to be able to do that. So the change was something that DJs had done historically for the company. We're not going to be doing that thing anymore. And there are DJs who were really kind of relieved by
I
that.
think
And there were
most of them were relieved.
probably. But then, we had to go through all of the growth pains, to kind of get to where things are now. And it could have been really easy to be like, oh, we had 70 meetings this week or whatever. Like, is this
Mhm.
sustainable? And pivot and go back to the, quote unquote, like easier way of doing that wasn't necessarily as in line with your goals, which was to have a consistent message to and I really feel like that message, maybe that you expected this or was you were hoping that this was going to be an outcome of that, is it raised the standard some
Mhm.
to
Absol
vocalize it to our potential clients. DJs are no longer deciding what their standard was. We were deciding
Mhm.
what it was. And so then it's all about kind of creating the other support systems to be able to help everybody get to the standard that we are expressing
Well,
to
and
people who
and
hire us.
part of the reason why I think that standard was changing, was because of the way, it's like it's reacting to market conditions. So, before the pandemic, all of our meetings were in person, always. And at the office, we had like 6 tables in the office, and like Monday through Thursday between 5 and 9 or PM, there would be 6 DJs at one time having first meetings, and then they would schedule them back to back, so they would be there for like, and I mean, we were
Right.
having dozen, and so everybody always heard everybody. They all the DJs were always, they all knew each other because they were all in the same room all the time having meetings.
Mhm.
And then they would overhear somebody say like, "Oh, this is how you explain when someone says, can I choose every song that you're gonna play?" And so they hear a DJ say, "Actually, it's not a great idea." Like you could hear how somebody was explaining things, or I'm in the office, so they could be like, "Hey, I had this client ask me if I could put speakers in this one area," and I'd be like, yes, you can absolutely do that. Or, oh no, that's a fucking terrible idea. And and that was sort of the joy of having a company you worked for versus being just like a person who did their DJ meetings at a Starbucks and there's just one single op. You get me as a resource. You get the office as a resource. You don't have to have your meetings at a Starbucks in Oak Brook because that's where the client lives. You're like, nope, sorry, our office is in the city. And so it makes everything more cohesive. So then once that was over, and it took me a while to kind of realize that that was a problem, that everyone
Yeah,
went from
part of
doing their
that
meetings in
essential.
person to coming on Zoom. None of us understood Zoom, and in fact, before the pandemic, I used to do these dropped lead reports, so when a DJ would drop a lead, they had to fill out this little form that was like, and the questions were, was it live, or were you in person, or were you on phone, or were you on Zoom, or I guess it was Skype at the time. No one was using Zoom. Um, and I don't think people understood how to do online meetings before the pandemic. So, whenever I did an analysis of our dropped holds, and half the time that we had a dropped hold, the meeting wasn't in person. So then I was like, you have to try to push to, unless they're like deployed. Like you really need to try to have your meetings in person because they don't convert if you're not in person. And so once the people had the quick education on what it's like to do a meeting online and how to like establish rapport, because we've all kind of learned how to kind of turn it on in a flat two-dimensional way, as a result of everything going online.
It's because 'cause we're
And
wearing sweatpants,
I am wearing,
right?
I'm wearing my
It's
you
just
can't
we're
really see
so
the
much
logo.
more comfortable, that we know how to turn it on Zoom.
Which actually I don't think there's not some truth in that. But once I kinda put that together, I'm like, "Oh, and the reason why this is all getting kind of awkward and awful is because, the DJs they're not getting the ambient education and training they get from hearing other people." And I didn't realize that was so much a part of our process, was kind of like cross-training that was just happening.
But you got a lot of
And
confidence out of that observation, right? Because you knew that what you were hearing was actually what you wanted people to learn from that
Mhm, and I could
interaction,
correct
right?
them in real time. I could be like, "Oh, actually, that is not a thing we do, guys," or I would be I would kind of I could and other DJs could monitor that as well. So if they said
Right.
that in a meeting, another DJ would be like, "Oh, you know what? I do believe that everybody was kind of, getting
Yeah.
it from each other." And so I'm
Yeah.
like, "Shit, is the Pax Ramana of Toast and Jam over?" Like, am I never gonna get back that magic? And I know, and we started getting more complaints, which we never used to get complaints. Never. We would get like 1 a year.
Mhm.
And we started getting more, and they were, like, weird complaints. They were, like, kinda petty, where I'm like, "That's the thing you're complaining about?" Then I realized they're just trying to get money back, but they also got in the headspace where they felt like they're all trying to get money back. I mean, I don't believe any complaint is just to, like, for a training
That took
opportunity,
me a
like,
while to learn too. I think my impulse is always to be like, "What did they do wrong?" And then, like, once you start to, like, dig into things, it's like, "Nothing, actually."
well, talk about I mean, when we realized last year when we did it's and I don't know if
Mm.
I mean, I'm on a lot of DJ Facebook groups, so I don't think people are doing this kind of, soul searching when they lose things, because I mean, people are like, "I lost this lead and to a guy that charges half as much as I do," and it's like, "Okay, well, then
Duh.
price then I mean, if you wanna get every single event that comes your way, then yeah, charge half as much and you will work all the time, but you won't make as much money." Like, when people are like,
Right.
"I book every lead I get," then I'm like, "Well, you're not charging enough, because that shouldn't be, then
Yeah.
you're getting booked on price." But anyway, that's not the
Yeah.
point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make is that when we started analyzing the reason why we were losing leads, and we realized that, like, we had got 5 complaints, and 3 of the 5 complaints, the meetings weren't in person, or the not both half of the couples weren't at the meeting. And so we realized
And
that
whatever their dance floor, the number of people at the wedding was also
yes, yeah,
small. So there was
guest count
guest
was
count,
really hard, whether or not
both
both
couples were
couples
involved in
were
planning.
at both meetings, and we realized that
Both people in the
both
couple.
sides of
Yeah.
the couple, like
Yeah.
the
Yes.
bride, the groom, the groom, the groom, the bride, the
Yeah.
married,
All the
whatever
things.
you
Yes.
and so if you only had one person there, and they're not married yet, they don't know each other the way that they think they do, like, they don't. And I think that people wanna think, "Well, if I'm getting married, I can speak on their behalf because I know my beloved so well." But you don't know their family as well as you think you do. You don't know. And so when people are in the meeting and they're saying, "We want this, we want that, and the other thing," and then they get to the meeting and the groom's like, "Well, where's my Bon Jovi?" And it's like, "Well, I never heard the word Bon Jovi in the entire planning process." And it's like, "But it's my favorite band. How did you not know that?" And it's like, "Because your fucking wife was the one who was there giving." I'm sorry, I shouldn't say your fucking wife. But it was like, this is why you both need to be there, is because both of your needs aren't being reflected. Or like,
Yeah.
it's like if the bride at the first meeting is like, "Oh, his mom is in a wheelchair and I don't think they're going to want to do a mother-son dance." And then you get to the wedding and the groom really didn't understand what he wasn't agreeing to. And then all of a sudden it's like, "Why aren't we doing a mother-son dance?" And it's like, "Well, you said we weren't doing." It's like, and if the groom had been there to be like, "No, we're dancing." Like, it's crazy, the things that could have been avoided with just better communication, which is always,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the reason why anything falls apart.
The other, major lift, that we've had over the last year and a half is that getting some of those things out of your brain and into our planning form. So having newer DJs be able to kind of advance more quickly through the different scenarios around tradition,
Mhm.
expectation,
Mhm.
cultural weddings, things like that all benefit from getting that into that form, because then it's not just about the DJ seeing those questions and answering them. It also gets the couple looking at those
Mhm.
questions and really thinking about what they want. And then I think that leads to a more, just
Mhm.
like we say, like if you ask the question, put in a, don't just leave it blank, because it's
Yeah.
like, did you actually talk about whether or not you want, introduction for your wedding party? Is that why there are no names on this list? Or like,
Mhm. Or did they not realize they
so,
had to fill
or,
it in or whatever?
right, exactly.
And even when we realized that most of those complaints were on weddings that were, like, sub 100 people, it's like,
Or on
you
a
know
Sunday, or like
and when
just
you I
lots of
mean,
factors.
I do feel like post-pandemic, the weddings have gotten smaller. We're seeing a lot more 120s and lower. It
Mhm.
used to be like 150 was like every wedding was 150 people or more. And if it was small, if it was less than 150, it was like, this is a small intimate gathering of 125 people. And so, and I get it, like money or you understand who's important or whatever. You have you have these smaller weddings, which is great. And it's not like you can't have a rager with 80 people, but it is harder. And so you have to kind of prime the pump on people. So when we ask, like, so it's also the DJs understanding why we're asking these questions. Because if you've got, like there's one of our favorite venues to work at is Cafe Brower, which is in Lincoln Park Zoo. It is beautiful. It is one of my absolute favorite venues in the entire universe. I love it so much. But it's big. It's a big room. And I really feel like less than 150 in that room feels small. It feels empty. And so planners then, when they've got a smaller guest count, they want to like spread the tables out to really fill up the room to make it seem like there's more people there than there are, which then makes a dance floor that is like you could land a plane on. And when you have a giant dance floor and 80 people, like you cannot make a big, you can't, this is a good tip for everybody. You can't make a dance floor you don't want a big dance floor. You want the smallest possible dance floor for the volume of people that you have, because energy leaks out. Like if you've and so when I've seen this at Brower a million times, not really a million times, but I've seen it enough with small parties where you've got if there's 80 people, you've got you know pockets of 15 people, and they're dancing independently of each other, and like the energy is leaking all over the place, and it never gets cohesive, and it never gets really fun. So I'm always like, push the tables together, make the dance floor as small as possible, get high tops and make four corners so you're defining the dance floor, and people will stay inside of that. They won't ooze out of it. They want to be
Mhm.
confined. So knowing that if you're in a meeting and you're at Brower with 80 people, it's like, okay, you guys, you really have to like push that dance floor. Don't let your planner or whoever's doing the floor plan make the tables super big, 'cause you wanna make that dance floor small.
I think
And,
about
it
molecules and heat. That's like my analogy always. Is like,
hmm,
when you have the things are cold, they move slow and there's a lot of space and then they kind of like whatever. But like as things heat up, molecules move faster, they bump into each other. It's just like more energetic. So you like constrain it so your molecules can move fast and everybody dances. I don't know.
eh
That's
I'm
kind of how
sorry,
I
is that a
always
metaphor?
picture it.
Do you use that metaphor in meetings?
I kinda do. Like, I
Yeah.
would definitely, depending on whether the
The c
guest count
the couples
necessitates
yeah.
that conversation, but I think, it's like you have a certain
I
number of something if you're gonna have a hotter dance floor if everybody's
I
closer
st
together.
I don't know understand science well enough to even understand that analogy, but I like it. I like it that it's brainy. I like that you're bringing, a braininess to the situation.
Yeah, don't at
Um,
me.
I will never at you. I will never
No,
not
not
at I will
you. I
never
mean your audience.
yeah, they're gonna
That's
yeah,
actually that's
my
actually wrong.
dozens of listeners that you're worried that you're gonna get, pwned in the
Yep.
comment section,
I don't even know what
because
that
you
means.
understand science and I don't. Pwned?
Mhm. Pone?
It's in it's a
Sounds
really long
dirty.
story. It's
Okay.
leet, which is, nerd language.
Okay.
It's 133 T. It's like back when, like, what do you call it? I know like Linux was being, like, invented, like, the nerds that were, like, coding it, like, it was, like, using typos to actually it's like spelling, like,
Oh,
using letters
hello on
for
a calculator?
yes, is leet.
Okay.
So and so O and P are next to each other on the
Okay.
this is
Mhm.
how I understand it. Again, don't add me on this one because I don't know if I'm really understanding it better. But so when you are typing really fast and you type own, like OWN, but you hit a
Mhm.
P on there, so it's
Mm,
PWN. Like
got it.
it's so getting owned is so getting pwned is
Uh-huh.
getting owned, which
Is
is getting
nerd owned. I
yeah,
did a similar
whatever.
thing this morning. I was typing the word Sunday and I wrote done day instead, and I was like,
It
all of
is.
those days.
It's
They're
done
all
day.
done days.
You're all done
The other thing
days.
that I heard this morning adjacent to this that I feel like I wouldn't be on a podcast unless I mentioned being obsessed with drag. I saw a sketch of Trixie Mattel this morning with someone lovely putting their makeup on, and she was worried that she didn't look pretty enough. And then the person was like, you look amazing. And she looked in the screen and was like, Linda Evangelista. And the guest was like, no, Linda Evangelista. And I was like, how has no one ever said Linda Evangelista to me
And
before?
how is that not already a drag name? Like, how
I
come there
mean,
isn't
perhaps it
already
is someone out there
I
and they're
think
just
Belinda I
Trixie
think it should be
stealing
like
their thunder, but
it should be Belinda Evangelista,
okay. Yeah.
just
You
to
got to
make it a
change
bit
them
more
both a little bit.
I actually on a similar note, I went to New York, as you know, Melissa, but the listeners don't.
I
I went to New
do.
York City a couple weeks ago, and I saw, O'Mary, the play by Cole Escola, and, Cole after Cole finished their run, there's been different Marys, and, the Mary that I got was Jinx Monsoon. Melissa knew who they were when I did, I got to do I stage doored, which means I stood at the stage door after the show and got her autograph and sent it to Melissa,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Oh my god." I'm like, "You know who she is." I don't watch Drag Queens, so I don't or Drag Race, so I didn't know who she was, but I knew she was important.
She's important
Last night I went
and
to a
gorgeous and
mom's
fabulous.
so when we're recording this, it's the week that school started, and I went to my son started middle school, so it's a whole new school, so it's like a whole new set of moms and, kids and whatnot, and I went to a mom's night last night at a restaurant in Evanston and met some moms. It's such a butt sniffing situation, like, I'm so nervous at these things, and I'm like, I'm just afraid,
Bless you for
and I
going.
well, you know what? I don't want my son to miss out on things, and if I don't do these things and I found out last night there's a dance, like a dance thing called Fortnightly that Evanston puts on, and it's like the first one's a neon dance, and then the second one is mother son or daughter daddy, and then the third one is line dancing. And I learned about that, and I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, Sebastian's doing that.
Will
Um,
he go? Like, I don't have a
well,
joiner as a kid, so
I wouldn't have sent him, but then I found out that his homie, his little crew, all of his little dudes are going, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So
mm,
he's gonna go to it because of that. When I told him about it, he goes, "So do I have to get a date?" And
cute.
I'm like, "Do you want a date or I don't want you to have a date. I want you to go with your friends, like,
There was a
Karate Kid style."
K-pop Demon Hunter sing-along at the movie theater, this past weekend,
Did you
and
go?
all my daughter does is sing K-pop Demon Hunter songs.
Same. That's
I
all
said,
Sebastian sings too.
"There's a K-pop Demon Hunter sing-along at the," and I still probably have a wound from where her eyes daggered across my body with complete disgust and just utter disdain
Like
for
she
that
didn't wanna do
suggestion
that?
in
Oh my god.
on any planet. Yeah. So
Guys,
anyway,
Sebastian wanted to go
I
to that.
digress, but no. I would have
No,
driven
I
to
mean,
Evanston and gotten Sebastian and taken him to the K-pop Demon Hunter sing along at the LaGrange Library, but or
ours
movie theater. But yeah,
ours was at a movie theater in Glenview, but it was yeah, I mean,
no,
what is it? What cocaine, crack, whatever is in that movie? It
it
is
is the
all he
catchiest.
wants to watch. We he
Yeah,
he's never cared
Deb
about
doesn't
music,
watch
like
it, but
she doesn't?
she
She
doesn't
just
watch it.
listens to the oh,
Yeah,
well,
this is
Sebastian
I know.
Sebastian doesn't care about music. It's very cobbler's kids have no shoes. He just
Hmm.
it's like he has nothing. There's so
Yeah,
much music in our house.
mine
He has
doesn't
0
either.
desire.
Hmm.
But K-pop Demon Hunter is golden. Like, it keeps popping, and
Oh
he's doing it
yeah.
on my account, so now it's entered my
Hmm.
algorithm, and,
Yeah.
I need to get out of the algorithm.
I
I gotta
don't
cut
hate
off
it. I
Spotify.
don't
I know
hate
I
it.
know, but
I
I
like
don't
the
like being
songs.
I mean, I guess one of the things you said earlier on was that, when you had the person that was your angel investor,
Hmm.
your initial person that gave you the wings to try this out, and when you realize that you had to buy them out and realize that you need to get them out, like, that is something that, um, it kinda rang true to me 'cause I never have had a I've never had a partner. Like, I've never had it's always just been me, and, like, I could not imagine, like, having somebody with financial stake in the company that had a say that was equal to or greater than mine. Like, I don't think I could handle that very easily, and I think that probably was true with you, is that you realize, like, "Wait a minute, this person's kinda holding me back," and having somebody else kind of in there making decisions. I mean, I'm projecting that onto you, but was that something that was, like, part of the reason why you got them out of it?
No, it was definitely like, a situation that, uh, like, you shouldn't be doing the work that you do for the person that is helping you do what you do, I guess. So, like, don't be your investor's designer slash, don't let them be your
Mm.
client, because it brings a level of exposure and power dynamic, that
Mhm.
isn't really sustainable or healthy. And
Yeah, I mean,
so,
it's
so that was more the need for that to kind of close for my company. But I think that the partnership aspect of it is so, I think, essential because, especially in creative, which I would consider this,
Oh,
company
yeah.
to be a creative company. It's not visual, it's with your earballs, but still, a lot of interpretation, a lot of ways that you're taking somebody else's idea of something and trying to put yourself into it and then make this magical thing happen.
And
And go ahead.
one of the things I love about you that has been so amazing in this is that you completely get my sense of humor and you understand, like, the vibe of this company and understand our branding and you understand the brand voice because there'll be things where, like, because I like to make things a little weird and a little funny, a little
Mhm.
cheeky, like, a little randy, if you will.
Without any prints definitely speaks to that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so, I mean, when we added photo booth services to Toast and Jam, the packages were, and still are, sort of, if you get a photo booth with a printer, it's prints and the resolution, which when I tell you how hard I laughed at myself when I made that joke, when I realized that prints and the resolution could be the name of a project of a package, I died. I cried forever. I laughed so hard at myself on that one. And then the other one is called WAP, without any prints.
Yeah, without any prints.
Some people were like, "That's I don't know if you wanna do that." I'm like, "Why not? It is a song. It was number 1." Like,
Yeah.
it's not a wet ass
This is
anything. It's
screening. Are you for us or aren't you? If
yes,
you
it
are offended
absolutely
by
is.
without any prints as your package name, then you should maybe,
We're
I
not
don't
your
know, look
person.
elsewhere.
Yeah, it's not, and I do think we should do an episode at some point about branding, and how much my branding is.
Unique and amazeballs and core to aligning us with the people that we want to work for.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I do this in my real life too, where I have a friend, Debbie, who passed, who rest in peace. She just was one of my best friends and I loved her so much. But she told me once that I dare people to like me because whenever I meet new people, I just say the weirdest shit I can just to see if they're going to like if I can, because if they're just sort of like, okay, which I do get quite a bit, especially on the North Shore. But when people are like, "Ooh, who's this weirdo?" That's how, and I can see their face, and I can see, like, even last night, the reason why I brought up O'Mary was
Butt
I had got
sniffing?
a, I got a T-shirt when
Oh,
I saw
right.
O'Mary that has Jinx Monsoon on it, and it says O'Mary on the back. So I was like, I need to own this, and I wore it there just to see if anybody knew who it was, like if anybody knew what it was, if anybody, and it was like there were like some people who were like, "Did you see O'Mary?" I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna be friends." You know who I am. But anyway, so Debbie used to say that I used to dare people to not like me, and she said it lovingly. She wasn't like,
Of
"You need to
course.
stop. You need to change your personality." But it's true. Like I
Yeah.
do dare people to like me, and I kind of feel like that's the same thing with Toast and Jam. Is that it's
Mhm.
like I'm not doing the chicken dance. Like I'm gonna make sex jokes on my photo booth
Mhm.
packages names. Like I'm gonna make dumb jokes about getting drunk and going through the song list, and like I don't want to have to like well, we're gonna have a really fun, dignified today's gonna be the princess day of your life. Like, if you wanna be a princess, I mean, I can do princess, but I'm not gonna
Oh, yeah. We can
actively do
definitely do
princess.
Princess, but we'll do it
Um
in the best ever way Princess was ever done. Yeah, but partnership, I think, taking it back to that is, like, I don't think I ever expected to come to Toast and Jam and, like, I've learned so much, like, so much about myself, about my range, about my, ability to kind of have 1,400 different personalities in our employ and navigating like how to, sort of
Mhm,
make sure everybody has what they need. I'm not the best at, necessarily tailoring all of my messaging to each individual, but not for lack of trying sometimes. But, it's just, I managed salespeople, but I'd never managed creatives or ever, really needed to do things in that way. And so it's just been a real, I've just grown so much, and I've never
mhm.
really thought that like, if you just say what I do, represents a
Yeah.
fraction,
I know,
of
right? Well, and even on,
what the job
well,
is. But
and from my side, it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, I have the final say on things. Like, I get that. Like, and
hmm hmm
and I definitely assert myself sometimes when I'm like, nope, we're doing it this way, and I don't care what you say.
yeah,
But I feel like that's
totally.
rare. I feel like that's rare that I am like putting my foot down on anything because I definitely trust you to like, be able to take
I put
what I
my
want to
foot
do
down
and
more often than you do. I
absolutely.
think it
And
comes to
it's true,
certain
and I will
stuff.
tell you, like, I will say that there's times when, like, you put your foot down and we're like, "We're doing it this way," and I'm like and my initial and this is where, my all of my, my love of the Stoic philosophy and the like, is where I kind of have to, like, kinda stop and be like, "Okay, there's the pause in between the stimulus and the reaction," and think to myself, "Okay, is this the right thing?" And sometimes when you're putting your foot down, I'm like, "Actually, I've got some cracks. There's some cracks in there, and I need to spackle them over just to kind of make sure that we've got this whole thing 100%." But I do kinda like it when you tell me what to do a little bit. I get like I mean, because one of the worst and hardest things about being an entrepreneur is the loneliness, and heavy hangs the head that wears the crown, and, like
100%.
and not feeling like, nobody understands what you're going through like a business owner does,
Mm-mm.
and, you get to you get to get treated like the business owner without the end game on it, and, it's like, there are things that are so hard and so difficult, and I know that every time you're making a decision, it's in the right place. It's never it's never because you are trying to cut a corner,
Right.
and 'cause I don't cut corners, I'm not a corner cutter, like, I'm a you gotta kill it every time kinda person, and you gotta give it all with corners and everything,
Yeah. Well, I
and
think
I
that's when you were saying the owner's mindset part is like, but it's like you as an owner's mindset. Like I think one of the things that I got so excited about when I first started was how closely just naturally aligned we were on so many different things that made it so that I could make decisions confidently because I knew inherently we had the same sort of philosophy around, those things. And you probably deal with a lot of my questions. I actually saved this on Instagram that made me think of how a lot of my correspondence feels like when I email you. It's if anyone has any experience with anything or knows anything about something, please let me know. Please advise. Because I'm not a DJ. I didn't like come from this world. So sometimes whenever I'm like sending you things, I'm like, this is probably how Mary is like reading this because it's so out like innate to like how you've done this job for 2 decades, like how well you know it. And to me, it's just like completely foreign. But I do
but it
think that,
also but it's also it's a testament when people are like, they don't think this is a real company. No one thinks this is a real company, and it's, kind of a testament also that under the hood, all businesses are the same, like, and so it's not like there's nothing truly unique that we are doing here. I mean, in a gestalt way, I think it kind of is like the sum of the parts. Like when it's the
mhm.
parts all seem kind of weird, but then when you get them all together, it makes this beautiful perfection. It's kind of like the Beatles. Independently, they kind of sucked, but all together, I'm basically Toast and Jam as the Beatles, and so don't put that on a
I can
T-shirt.
see that. I can see that. Don't put
Um,
that on a t-shirt. But
but
I do think that this is alchemy, right? Like the way that you and I fit together in our approach to our clients, the seriousness that we bring to the table and the commitment that we have to our couples and, anyone who's hiring us, event or wedding or whatever it is, like brought kind of to the lexicon that you have to slay every time. And I think there's the DJ part of that. And then there's the office part of that, is like really making sure that like, if I describe myself as, the operational wind between under the DJ's wings or whatever, it's really about, making sure they have all the tools. And I bring that same high expectation to how we run because I just so seriously take, each one of these events. It's
Well, and I
somebody's
mean, and it's, I
day.
mean, we one of the things that I, kind of beat into the DJs and that since I started the company is that like every part of a wedding is important as any other part of the wedding, and that starts at the first meeting you're having with them. So if you at your first meeting, if you are a little bit late or if you accidentally swear or if, like if there's it's like when you start kind of like, those are just like little chinks in the armor, like it's like, and so if you kind of are always doing a little like fucking up a little bit, even though
Mhm.
nothing is super big, that accumulates into doubt. A little
Yeah.
bit of doubt. And so they're like, I don't know, Toast and Jam has a great reputation, but like my DJ did this and that and the other thing. I'm like, let's just see how the wedding goes. And so then when they get to the wedding, and if everything goes perfectly, then whatever. I mean, being a little late to a meeting is not what makes you a great, it doesn't necessarily affect your ability to DJ. But if you, get in there and then all of a sudden you mispronounce a groomsman's name, you're somewhere else when it's time to start the first dance or whatever, all these things kind of become cumulative. And even if the dance floor bangs and there's nothing wrong that happens, when they're doing the postmortem the next day, it's like, dance floor was really good, but didn't you kind of feel like something was off or whatever? And then all of a sudden it's like something that was nothing that all because they were a little late to the first meeting. And like, I do see that butterfly effect. I think me saying this, it sounds a little crazy that can all, but this is how I think about it. And if you're going to
Mhm.
work for me, you have to understand that like every part of this is important. Like we're not just in it so that like we can get there and slay your dance floor. Like I love lining up people. I hate the introductions. I only hate the introductions because, I hate the introductions because it's the first time I'm on a microphone really for at the wedding. And so this is where I'm getting them on my side or not, and so that's where I'm like terrified of mispronouncing a name. That's where I'm terrified of like having like my problem when I'm doing introductions is I always do if then statements. So I'll be like, okay, so if everybody can in cocktail area, it's time to start moving towards dinner. And then I realize I've just started an if, so I need a then, but I already trailed the sentence into someplace else. And this is what's going on in my head is like, you made an if then statement. So then like the next week, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And so then I'm like, all right, everybody, it's time to move from what is this thing called? The terrace patio. So then so if I don't script out everything, then I am a fucking mess at these things. But because I'm scripting them, everything sounds right the every time because now I know, like I
Yeah, you
just I
could use
scripted it.
Ellie's cards.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Anyway, we've been all over the place. I don't think this is
We
the
sure
last time
have.
you're on here, Melissa, because I'm gonna bring you back in, especially when I don't have a guest and I need
Sounds
someone
good.
real quick. It's always
Okay.
gonna be you.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Um, I
We
am
got
so
lots of
happy that
topics. We did not
I
talk about, my Amorfati shower situation at
mm,
all, so put
we
that in
didn't
the, next
in the spank
episode.
bank. Debbie used to say that all
Well,
the time. Now that I love that
aw.
Debbie's come up twice, but she used to say, like, whenever
Yeah.
she would, like, fall down in front of her husband or, like, fart or whatever, she'd be like, "Put that in the spank bank," like, and it was I love Debbie.
Amazing.
All right, Melissa, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Everybody, you got to see how the sausage is made a little bit. If you guys liked how the sausage is made and you really want to learn more about it, we have a voicemail line that you can leave a voicemail at. We'll have a link to it in the show notes. But we really do want to get voicemails from people kind of either asking questions or telling us how you feel about something. I'd love to be able to play them live and answer them. I really just want to be an advice columnist, really, at the end of the day. I think I've got good advice. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. I super appreciate it. And I hope you didn't feel like you had to, but you probably felt that way a little bit.
I mean, you gotta break the seal, so I think now that, I have a sense of all this,
Yeah.
it's all gonna be
It's,
amazing
it's
from here. I can't wait to see where we go.
It's gonna be it's going into your job description.
Okay, perfect. I'll make
Podcast
that
co-host.
edit.
Thank you. Can you make that edit and upload it into the blueprint so that everybody has
Sounds
access
good.
to that
I'll put
information?
an
Okay.
SOP together.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mary.
Perfect. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to All Up in My Lady Business with me, Mary Nisi. We'd love for you to like, review, subscribe, follow us at All Up in My Lady Business on the gram. And if you're a female identifying person and you want to dance, you can follow. I mean, everybody can follow it, but if you want to be a part of the magic at Hot Flash Dance Party, sign up for the mailing list to find out where our next party is going to be. And if you are looking for a DJ in the Chicagoland area or anywhere else, money's the same color everywhere. Fly us out. ToastandJamDJs.com has the best. And listen to my radio show. I have a radio show on Chirp Radio at chirpradio.org. And that's Mondays, every Monday from 12 until 3 p.m. CST. Today's episode is produced by Shiraz Dada. Theme song composed and performed by, you guessed it, Shiraz Dada. All right, guys. Peace out.